Inheriting, stumbling upon, or simply having a mountain of wealth is a lot of people's dreams. I'm sure you have a long list of things you'd do if it were ever to happen to you. However, things never go as planned. Sometimes money doesn't give you the life you wanted, or you simply lose sight of who you are. These are a list of people whose riches got the better of them and ultimately fell into an unfortunate demise. Casey Johnson was the daughter to Sale and Woody Johnson, and heirs to the Johnson & Johnson fortune. She lived the rich life, receiving her first Chanel bag at the age of 10, driving expensive cars when she grew up, rubbing elbows with stars, and much more. This all went downhill when she got addicted to cocaine and alcohol, something that came with a heavy party lifestyle. During her early years, she graduated from a private school and enrolled at Brown before dropping out of freshman year for an internship for publicist Lizzie Grubman. Eventually, when her party life was taking over, Sale, her mom, cut her off financially and tried to get her to go to rehab. Being cut off financially, her life spiraled further down and down. Reportedly living without the basic utilities at a rented home and hiding her car in the garage to prevent it being repossessed. It also didn't help that she had diabetes since the age of 8 and was getting worse by her body building up a tolerance to insulin. It was speculated that her condition was made worse by taking prescription medications such as Oxycontin and Adderall, as well as marijuana, ecstasy, and cocaine. Whatever the case may be, she unfortunately failed to take her insulin and died after being discovered in a coma and never recovering. When Donald Trump announced his candidacy for US president, he has generated controversy on both sides of the political aisle. But before all of this, he looked up to his older brother as a role model, Fred Trump III. As the eldest son of Fred Trump Jr., Fred Trump III was in line for his father's business, and it seemed like his life would be a great success. According to Donald, his older brother was the life of the party. He was a fantastic guy, but got stuck on alcohol. Suffering with severe alcoholism, he turned away from business and spent most of his time partying. Trump, in an interview, said he drank a lot and started drinking more, and he ultimately died of alcoholism. This had an effect on Donald, who now abstains from alcohol. As Fred's health worsened, he tried to get help, however, it was too late and nothing worked. He knew he had a problem and regretted all of his alcohol abuse. Fred Trump III died in 1981 at the age of 42 due to alcohol-related issues. Andrew Getty was a man with too much time on his hands. Born of billion-dollar privilege, he had grandiose dreams he never realized. He attained his wealth from being the heir of billionaire philanthropist Gordon and Ann Getty. He studied film at USC and later New York University, from which he graduated in 1990. He had an affinity for cheesy horror movies and was known for his vivid powers of recollection and captivating stories. He spent his days in his mansion writing hundreds of film scripts, none of which he managed to sell. To overcome this, he ended up spending millions to shoot his own independent film instead. Getty put close to $6 million into the film, but he ran out of money and the film was never released. He needed financing, says Ryan Redenor. He ran out of cash. He bought millions of dollars worth of equipment instead of renting it. It then came as a shock when ex-girlfriend Lanessa DeYoung, whom which she had only just put restraining order against, found Andrew Getty's body upon entering his mansion. It was found that he had died from an ulcer-related gastrointestinal hemorrhage. The 47-year-old's autopsy report showed that he had a toxic level of methamphetamine in his body, which was a contributing factor to his death. William Billy Woodward Jr. was the heir to the Hanover National Bank fortune, the Bel Air estate, and stood from farm legacy. He was also a leading figure in horse racing circles. Though an interesting man, he's not who we're looking at today. Instead, we're going to talk about his two children, William Woody Woodward III and James Jimmy Woodward. Both of these kids' lives would change forever when William Woodward Jr. was accidentally shot by his wife, Anne Eden Crowell. One fateful night, both of the children were asleep at the family home at the time of the shooting. Their mother and father had gone out to investigate a possible prowler and, in a bad case of mistaken identity, shot her husband. Gossip and speculation about their father's death followed them for the rest of their lives. After their father's death, they were sent to a boarding school in Switzerland. As an adult, James Woodward joined the United States Army, where he served as an MP during the Vietnam War. While in Vietnam, he became addicted to heroin. After his army stint, he returned to the United States, where he continued to use heroin and was admitted to a mental institution. While high on heroin in 1972, he attempted suicide by jumping from the window of a friend's apartment, but ended up surviving. On September 1st, 1978, he jumped from an even higher window of the Mayfair House Hotel where he was living, this time not surviving. Woody Woodward went on to attend Harvard University and, in the 1960s, became a journalist for the New York Post. He later became the publisher of More magazine, which featured media criticisms. After leaving the magazine, he worked for Hugh Carey and New York City Mayor Ed Koch in 1978. He ran for the New York Senate but lost. On May 2nd, 1999, Woody Woodward died after jumping from the window of his New York City apartment. According to friends, he was manic-depressive and had grown despondent over the contentious divorce and custody battle he was going through with his ex-wife. Tad Walgreen was heir to the Walgreen fortune that was built from America's largest chain of drugstores. Tad grew up living with his mother in far more modest circumstances than that to which the Walgreen family was accustomed in the affluent North Shore suburb of Lake Forest. He tried to get involved with the family business and briefly moved in with his father. However, he soon found they didn't quite get along with his father. He ended up moving to Colorado and Arizona, bouncing from job to job and struggling with a drinking problem. When his addiction with alcohol got too much, he was sent to Chicago Hospital where he met with his wife, Lauren, who was there for help with her depression. They both hit it off, and in 1988, they got married and had 2 children. Lauren Walgreen had convictions for narcotic offences and prostitution, and had been hospitalised repeatedly for treatment of drug addiction and depression. Her husband served time in the Joliet Penitentiary on a drunk driving conviction. Ironically, he was facing a jail sentence for unlawfully obtaining prescription painkillers from a Walgreens store. They also fought hard but eventually lost custody of their children. Apparently, the grandfather testified that when he visited the couple's apartment in 1993, he found squalid living conditions, including feces and soiled clothing on the floor, dirty pots and pans, stained carpets and a hole punched in the wall. Eventually, Tad Walgreen was uncharacteristically late with his rent payment, and when they went to his apartment to check up on him, they found Tad's body in the advanced stage of decomposition. It was later found that he had died from an overdose at the young age of 36. Doris Duke, tobacco tycoon heiress, died in 1993. Upon her death, most of her fortune was willed to charity, with a small trust left to her last remaining relative. This relative was the troubled orphaned nephew Walter Inman Jr. Even though Inman received only a small portion of her fortune, it was still enough to make him a multi-millionaire. After divorcing his wife, Daisha, with whom he had twins, he fought hard in court to keep his children. Trials dragged on for most of the twins' lives, and despite his fierce attempts to get custody, it turned out that Inman was terribly abusive to his kids. He would lock up his children in a basement numerous times without a bathroom and force them to take baths in scalding water. The reason they weren't removed from his custody was because, ironically, the courts believed their mother was mentally unstable. This was because she had once married a registered sex offender. Inman had 5 wives in his lifetime, with an income of $90,000 per month. Despite this, Inman was never content and died in 2010 of methadone overdose, just shy of his 58th birthday. A marquess is a nobleman of hereditary rank that's below a duke but higher than a count. You'd think that with such a prestigious birth, there'd be a sense of utmost sophistication. Nope. Meet the Marquess of Bristol, more specifically the 7th Marquess, John Harvey. To understand the oddness of their line of noble blood, you only have to look back through what some of his ancestors have done. The 3rd Marquess boasted that he had bedded 12 Portuguese nuns. The 4th, who became Bishop of Derry, tipped a tureen of hot spaghetti over the prosecution of the Blessed Sacrament of his window in Rome because he couldn't stand the sound of bells. The 6th, Victor Harvey, not content being jailed for his part in a jewel heist, took potshots at his house guests from the upstairs window of the family pile at Ickworth, Suffolk, and was rumoured to have been the last man to be publicly flogged in Britain. John inherited the 8,000-acre estate, worth £4 million then, on his 21st birthday in 1975. This fortune, plus the money he had made from investments in oil, property and agriculture, bought him all the standard boy toys: yachts, classic cars, motorbikes, helicopters, and also allowed him to assume the mantle of libidinous libertine. Then there was the drink and drugs. Even as a teenager, he had hidden bottles of creme de menthe in Ickfield's numerous lavatory cisterns. Now, the Bloody Marys were wheeled out at 11 AM. The Marquess was twice jailed for drug offences, acquired the accolade of being the only member of the House of Lords to be deported from Australia, and died, virtually penniless, of multiple organ failure in 1999. Having admitted spent $7 million on drugs in less than a decade. Anyway, I hope you liked this morbid list, and if you did, leave a like. And if you want to see another list of deaths with a twist of irony, click here for my 8 morbidly ironic deaths.